Ladies and gentlemen, guess what? NASCAR is back. And not only it is back, but we are back. Live commentary action for tonight's Cookout Clash at Bowman Gray Stadium to kickstart the 2025 NASCAR season is underway in this great exhibition race. And we are going to see some tight, confined, beating and banging, maybe tempers flaring by the finish of tonight's action. First, we have an LCQ. We have to find out who the final qualifiers will be to make tonight's main event, which we will be starting in a couple hours' time. As far as this stream goes, this is just the LCQ, and then we will have the main event in a separate stream as there's going to be a gap time between the finish of this race and then obviously the 200 lap main event later tonight. All 200 laps in that main event will have to be completed under green flag conditions. And as far as this LCQ goes, we're only going to see a couple of drivers and maybe some big names potentially missing out on this year's race. Proud to bring everybody in for the first NASCAR live commentary stream of the season. Again, the LCQ for the Busch, not the Busch Light Clash. I keep confusing myself with that. This year, it is the second live commentary stream that we have had so far this season. Last weekend, we did the Rolex 24 at Daytona, kickstarting things, of course, with the Rolex 24 because I've never done it before. We did a 24-hour stream. Had to take a couple days off during the week. Got back to streaming the video game stuff. Now we're back to the live commentary stuff. And we're going to have live commentary streams every weekend from the week of the Daytona 500 all the way until early February for the NASCAR Championship weekend at Phoenix. There will be NASCAR live commentary streams nearly every single week. The only two races I'm going to this season that I will be going to all of the events to where there will not be a live commentary stream is going to be Bristol Motor Speedway for the night race and the Talladega Spring race. But every other weekend throughout the NASCAR season, even Easter weekend when the Cup Series is off, we'll still have live commentary for the almost said the Busch Series. It tells you how much NASCAR 08 we've been playing lately. Live commentary for the Truck Series and for the Xfinity Series. But yeah, it's going to be fun. I'm ready for racing. I've been going through some racing withdrawals over the last couple of months. I'm sure many of you have as well. And yes, Bowman Gray Stadium, the first ever clash at Bowman Gray Stadium. We've had it at the Coliseum in Los Angeles the last several years. But this year they have changed it to a staple of NASCAR's, I guess, originality. Short track racing, tight confines. This was a track that was last ran in the early 70s at the NASCAR Cup Series level. And this weekend they are back. Practice took place yesterday. We had heat races last night as well. I did not do live commentary for that like I usually would year over year. I was actually at the Royal Rumble in hours ago, so trying to get my notes ready for this race here today because I was not able to catch any on-track action at all during the course yesterday of seeing the on-track activity at Bowman Gray Stadium for these NASCAR Cup Series drivers. So thank you everybody for tuning in though. The mic? What about the mic? Is the mic working? Somebody said something about the mic in the chat. You'll have to let me know. You'll have to let me know. If my voice is a little raspy, it's because I was at a professional wrestling show last night. 4-hour events, but appreciate everybody tuning in here today. We got some shout outs to get out in the chat before we get started here. Brandon Martinez, Patrick Chatterley, to Bico, Jackson Robinson, Modern Genetics, thanks for tuning in. Wade, thanks for tuning in. And yeah, this is going to be awesome. Try to get a commentary job at Flow Racing. Call and put an application in. I mean, we're going to, obviously, this is part of an application process for me to hopefully commentate real NASCAR races down the road. If there's any slip-ups throughout the course of today's race, just remember it is the first live commentary stream for NASCAR so far this season. And again, really trying to play catch-up. That's one thing that I think really helped me last year was keeping up with practice, qualifying, watching every practice qualifying stream throughout the course of the year. Actually, last year, we didn't miss a single week of practice or qualifying in NASCAR. So to miss this weekend on the first weekend, it's the first practice of qualifying. But needless to say, even though we did not stream yesterday, we will have 2 streams today. And I'm just ready. I'm ready to get cars out on the racetrack. Waiting for this raw feed also to work on NASCAR.com. Sucks that we're having issues with it first night. Although the racing has not begun yet, I would imagine once it does, we are going to end up seeing our starting lineup for this LCQ. And once that becomes about, we will obviously get into our normally scheduled programming, I guess. The entrance to get on and off the racetrack is very reminiscent of me going to like a local dirt race. This very much has the grassroots short track racing feel here at Bowman Gray. I'm not sure what the seating capacity is this weekend. I would assume that they have expanded what we would normally see at a normal Bowman Gray Stadium race weekend. Has to be a sellout crowd, I would imagine. I mean, they probably sell out some Saturday nights throughout the normal racing season. NASCAR coming to town. I'd imagine they're definitely going to be packed in like sardines here today. Bowman Gray Stadium, 1958 to 1971. I mentioned the early 70s was the last time that the Cup Series is raced here. Throughout the heat race last night, obviously a lot of beating and banging, some wheel hopping, sliding tires. We're going to see a lot of that and much more here today as well. We're probably going to see tempers also, as we maybe could have seen yesterday with a couple of incidences that took place. And those were just 25-lap heat races. We got a 200-lap main event. We've got a 75-lap race coming up here for the LCQ as well. Keep putting the chat up on my laptop. I have it up on my phone. Right now, it's mainly just me constantly refreshing NASCAR.com to see if we can get this raw feed up and running. We'll go over the practice times yesterday to see who was the quickest leading into this weekend's event. First practice, Ty Gibbs was quickest, which might not be surprising. He had some good speed on short tracks last season, and kind of picking up where he left off there. Qualified pretty well through most of the races last year. Kyle Larson, who obviously is Kyle Larson, up in the top 5 as well, but a lot of notable names who you wouldn't normally see up there. Ty Dillon, third fastest. Noah Gregson with a new team, nonetheless. At Front Row Motorsports, 6th quickest. Ryan Preece, new team as well. RFK Racing, 2nd quickest, although this is a great racetrack for him, and we've seen him perform well in the Clash at the Coliseum the last couple of years. I'm interested to see what he could do with RFK this year. RFK tends to not perform well when they were in the Clash at the Coliseum. The Clash here at Bowman Gray Stadium, we'll see if they can pick it up and maybe try to compete for a win, because not only an RFK Ford was in second in the first practice session, but in practice session number 2, they also had a car in second. This one was Chris Buescher rather than the 60 of Ryan Preece. And Chase Elliott was actually quickest overall. Denny Hamlin, who won the Clash last year at the Coliseum, won a couple of short track races early last season as well. Third, should be a front runner, should be a contender. RFK looking good right out of the gate again, because Brad Keselowski was 5th quickest in the second practice session as well. Then you see a couple of the Toyotas behind Chase Briscoe, Christopher Bell. So again, those Toyotas on the flatter tracks last season really performed better than what they did in 2022 with the next gen car, as well as 2023 for that matter. With the next gen car, I mentioned Hamlin getting a couple early season wins. Bell won on some flatter racetracks. Penske obviously has been good since the next gen debuted 2022 and beyond on these flatter, shorter ovals, although we didn't see much of them yesterday compared to what we would have seen in years past. Now that we're getting into the race itself, it's going to be interesting. Ryan Blaney, of course, who almost won the championship last year, won Martinsville, similarly styled track to Bowman Gray Stadium late last season, is actually running in the LCQ. He didn't even qualify through the heat races yesterday to make it to the main event. He is going to be locked into the show, assuming he doesn't get in an incident in the LCQ, and that is because he would be the highest in points. There is a provisional to the highest point standings driver, so rather than a fan vote like we would see for the All-Star race, top 2 going to race their way in through the LCQ, and then the third and final entry into the main event is going to be, again, highest from points last season. So Blaney would be that driver of those running in the LCQ. So just throwing that out there. If Blaney doesn't finish top 2, he is in. If he does finish top 2, then we're going to have to find out who else is going to end up getting that provisional. Billy Kramer, thanks for tuning in as well. Appreciate you tuning in. 19th season of NASCAR for Wade. Here we go. Not really excited for this clash, says Patrick Shadley. I don't expect much passing, but I think we're going to see way more beating and banging than what we even would have seen with the Clash the last couple of years with this car, because this is an even tighter circuit than that of the LA Coliseum. The straightaways are a lot more narrow. Track is similar in length overall, but just the narrowness of this facility, I think, is the big thing. Definitely not going to be a lot of speed, so if you're more of a fan of faster racetracks on the NASCAR side, not as much short track, might not appease to your liking, but the traditional, grassroots short track racing fan, NASCAR fan, I think is going to appreciate this much. And I'm just excited to see NASCAR Cup cars back on the track again. That's all it boils down to for me. I'm simple, and I'm ready for some racing here today. I was pumped and ready for the Rumble yesterday, and I'm equally as excited to see NASCAR back in action for an actual race, even though it's not for points here tonight. And obviously, our next live commentary stream following tonight's streams will be Wednesday night prior to the Daytona 500. So not this Wednesday, but the following Wednesday to begin Speed Weeks qualifying for the Daytona 500. We'll be streaming 5 consecutive days of live commentary content, everything from qualifying for the Daytona 500 to the duels on Thursday, which both of those will be on the same stream. It won't be split like tonight. And then obviously Friday night we got the truck race. We got ARCA Xfinity doubleheader on the Saturday, Daytona 500 Sunday. Busy, busy week to say the least. Still don't have the raw feed up yet. They got Richard Childress on the broadcast right now. Kevin Harvick, Jamie McMurray, Clint Boyer alongside Mike Joy. Myers is down below for the pre-race also. I wonder if it's going to get started closer to 6:30 rather than 6. Considering no cars are on the track at the moment. Here we go. Raw feed looks like it's going to be up. Okay, so the raw feed's up. We'll go through the starting lineup for this year's LCQ for Bowman Gray Stadium's Cookout Clash. Ty Dillon on the pole. I mentioned he was pretty quick at first practice, top 5 yesterday. Might have a good shot to race his way in for Colleague Racing. And that would definitely be a shocker, I'd say, of those that are in this field. Zane Smith is going to be starting in the second place position on the front row as well. Ty Gibbs, Michael McDowell in row number 2. Austin Dillon, Eric Jones in row 3. Riley Herbst, rookie in the 35 for 2311 Racing, is going to be inside row 4, and AJ Allmendinger to the outside. Big name in row 5 alongside Justin Haley. It's Kyle Larson trying to race his way in. Ryan Blaney was starting at the back of the pack. There's going to be a lot of pressure on Kyle Larson to pass a lot of cars in a short race on a very short track. And I mentioned how hard it's going to be to pass Clash here tonight. It is possible. We saw Bowman in a Hendrick Motorsports car miss it last year. Maybe Larson this year. We'll see. Mid-pack, tough task to say the least. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and John Hunter Nemechek in row number 6. And Josh Berry with his new home at Wood Brothers Racing will be inside of row 7. Cody Ware to the outside. Pete Myers in the 50 for the Money Team is going to be an open entry here for this weekend. Of course, a very well-known name at Bowman Gray Stadium, as well as Tim Brown, who's starting deeper in the field. Interested to see what they can do in this 75-lap race. I don't expect them to race their way in, but let's see if they put on a performance, maybe get up into the top 10, make some noise. Maybe there's calamity around every corner we see in these LCQs in the years past, All-Star Race and the Clash. It gets kind of nutty. We might see some nutty stuff happening here today, like maybe a surprise front runner like those two. As far as, again, those drivers in row 7, Josh Berry, Cody Ware, then you got Burt Myers and Cole Custer, as I was mentioning, in row 8. Ryan Blaney starting deep in the field. He has the provisional. He is locked in. If he were to not get involved in an incident starting at the back in this kind of a race, could get involved in an incident. Depth say he will be starting at the back of the main event, as will the other drivers who race their way in through this LCQ. Alongside Blaney, you have Garrett Smithley for MBM in the 18, and Tim Brown is going to be starting deep in the field, 19th out of 19. And 39 entries this weekend. Cool to see 3 open entries for an exhibition race nonetheless. Obviously a big entry list for the Daytona 500 in a couple of weeks as well. So awesome that the Cup Series is getting this many open entries early in the season, both for not only the biggest race of the year, but even an exhibition race like we're having here this evening. Up to 21 likes on the stream. Be sure to hit that like button if you haven't done so yet. Subscribe for more daily NASCAR content as well. We are chasing 10,000 subscribers in the year 2025. Our goal is to get to 5,000 last year. We did it. Let's get to 10K by the end of this season as well. That would be awesome. You guys really showed out during that Rolex 24 at Daytona. I wasn't surprised by getting the, but I think what surprised me the most was wee morning hours. You know, that 1 o'clock in the morning through 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, that 5 to 6 hour stretch, we still had quite a few people watching all the way through the night. And I greatly appreciate everybody that tuned in, even if you weren't up for a large majority of that race and a large majority of that stream, and tune in periodically when you could. It really made the most of it. Helped keep me awake as well, keeping me rejuvenated as well as the racing down the stretch there. And we had some great things come out of that stream. IMSA's official YouTube channel popped into the chat, so big thank you to them for giving the stream a shout out as well during their actual race. While nonetheless, that official YouTube channel was streaming coverage of the race as it was going on. They took the time to randomly stop into my stream at like 1 o'clock in the morning on that Sunday morning edition of the Rolex 24. So great things have already happened so far this year, and we haven't even begun our NASCAR racing for this season. Stu Isaac, thanks for tuning in. Can't get over how small the track is, Hi Keegan. Yeah, it is a tight racetrack. I've never seen anything like it. I've seen clips of Bowman Gray racing, maybe for the worst parts of it. But here today, hopefully NASCAR can bring out the best of it. And we might see that traditional, tempers flaring at Bowman Gray Stadium, which you would see on maybe a typical Saturday night. We're not going to see cars demo derbying in the infield necessarily, but we are going to see. I guarantee somebody's going to be really upset with another driver. It's inevitable. When you have 200 laps at this kind of a racetrack, I mean, it's way more than they would have on a normal Saturday night in the main event. Somebody's going to get ticked at somebody. Showing Ryan Blaney bundled up. Should be a pretty cool night in the Carolinas. A lot of people bundled up in the grandstands, but the fact that racing is back is going to bring everybody together here this weekend. Yellows, yeah, that's for sure. It may remind me of the Clash from not last year, but every lap had to be ran under green like it is tonight, and it seemed like the race was never going to end. That could be tonight. It could be a long one. Maybe not as advertised, but it could end up being a long one. Lincoln Kim Hollingsworth, thanks for tuning into the stream as well. Greatly appreciate all of you tuning in right now that are returning viewers of the channel from last season. Appreciate you remembering me. Got Joey Logano on the Fox broadcast now with Myers, Harvick, McMurray, and Boyer. Got 4 drivers just lined up to the left of Chris Myers. All right. For those of you watching on Fox, and again, if you're wondering visually, where you can watch all of tonight's action, Fox Sports, your local Fox Sports affiliate. I'll let you listen into some of the broadcast while it's going on right now in the pre-race. And hopefully we get the main event underway at a reasonable start time, closer to 8, but LCQ still waiting to begin.
Tracks. I think about the Bristol Dirt Track, Gateway. We talked about the Clash of the Coliseum in 2022. You see it right there. You've really been the best at a lot of these tracks when we go to them for the first time. Is that because you think you adapt quicker? Is it car setup? Is it preparation? Like maybe just explain to us your process. Paul does a great job. Engineers do a good job at anticipating some of the things we may fight when we get to these tracks. A lot of that's just kind of going off of old school racing experience. So just I think we're gonna fight something like this, and then you gotta adapt quickly, right? You gotta get on the racetrack, figure out where the fast lanes are, figure out on restarts what lane's gonna be the best. These days there's so much data and stuff to go on over after races that we know what lane's going to be the one that moves forward. And we know all that stuff, but the first time you don't. And so I think, Coleman up on the roof does a great job at feeding me information to make sure we do the right things, as far as racing on the track as well.
Well, we all know that you're one of the most aggressive race car, drivers on the racetrack, whether it's a restart or anything in between. But you also show a lot of poise, a lot of patience, right? And on a track like this, we watched last night. You pushed it hard, squeezed in a gap that we both, Kevin and I, went, and thought you were going to get moved out of the way.
Everybody else wants
But ultimately, it's what puts you in a position to be in the race, right? It locked you in. Maybe not that one. That was Byron may not have wanted you to have that. He didn't want to get in. But right here, right?
Well, yeah, I felt like he owed me one after what just happened.
So that's my point. No one would have put.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a short race. You remember last night, you were 25 laps, and each spot's kind of worth 4, right? Because if you finish like we finished second, we start 7th tonight. So each spot meant times 4. So you can imagine how important it is, especially if we talk about track position. It's going to be tough to pass once it gets kind of strung out. The way you pass is going to be probably pretty physical between most. So restarts and those details mean a lot. So
I think that's why you see that happen, whether it's the modified race the other day here. You see the first few laps of a restart just be chaos and like just out of control. I assume we're going to see that here in a minute in the LCQ, and I hope
We hope so.
I hope you do. I hope in the future that like he kind of gets some laps. I'm sure at the end of the race it'll look like that again, but hopefully 250 laps. It's still some time we can manage that.
All right, well, thanks for coming by. Have a coconut smile. Celebrate the championship. We'll be watching you tonight. All right.
All right.
All right, Joey Logano with us. We'll continue live from Bowman Gray, and we'll have some final thoughts. Kevin and Clint head to the booth. Jamie and I return in just a moment.
Y'all see this? Patrick Mahomes is saying good.
Snoop Dogg's yelling at me. All right, there we go. Doodlebug 5, thanks for tuning in. It sounds like we're going to fire engines when they come back from this commercial break against 75 laps. Now, although no caution laps count in the main event, I do believe the caution laps count in the LCQ, so it will be a standard 75 laps, so it's going to make this race even way shorter if we get yellows. And there's going to be a lot of desperation for those drivers starting mid-pack and beyond to try to gain as much track position as they can for the start of this race. Again, the biggest names in this LCQ, Kyle Larson, Ryan Blaney, 2 former champions. Blaney locked into the show, obviously, again, with the provisional. I don't see him racing his way, obviously, up there. It's going to be tough for anybody really outside of the top 10, in my personal opinion. And the only reason I'm including far back to the top 10 is just because Kyle Larson is in 10th. Realistically, I wouldn't go outside of the top 6 to make it into the top 2 positions for this LCQ. That's going to be my pre-race prediction. Is I think the 2 that are going to race their way in through the LCQ are going to start in the top 6. So Ty Dillon, Zane Smith, Ty Gibbs, Michael McDowell, Austin Dillon, and Eric Jones. I think they're going to be vouching for it. And I remember Austin Dillon being pretty quick at North Wilkesboro last year. Would have started on the pole for his LCQ for that race had qualifying not gotten rained out right in the middle of it. We literally only had 2 drivers to make one more lap, but because they couldn't make a lap, it got washed, and he actually ended up starting at the tail of the field and didn't have enough time to race his way to the front despite having the speed to do so. Very similar circumstance for Dillon. Only this time, he's able to start towards the front, top 5 in the LCQ. So may have a little bit of time to try to gain just a few positions from where he starts. Yeah, a lot of the big names definitely locked into the show, I'd say, but there are some bigger ones still yet to try to get their way in. Ty Gibbs obviously starting 3rd, making the playoffs last season could be a big one. 3 former Daytona 500 winners in this LCQ. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Austin Dillon, Michael McDowell. Got an interview with the 2 locals running tonight's race.
Collectively, 23 championships, 198 wins at this racetrack between the 2 of you guys. Tim, what does it mean to be making your Cup Series debut as a local legend at this racetrack tonight in the Clash?
It's super special. I grew up racing here and grew up in the stands and playing around in the pits here in my grandpa's cars. And just for the Cup cars to come back here is super amazing. But for me to have an opportunity to get to be a part of it is just super cool. And couldn't be more thankful to everybody that helped put this together.
You get to work on these cars during the week. Tonight, you get to race one of them. That's going to be a lot of fun to see. Bert, I'm curious. You 2 guys, you've had your fair share of run-ins over the years at this racetrack, battling out for victories and championships. So if this guy's in 2nd place on the last lap, the last transfer spot, you're in 3rd place. What can we expect here at the Madhouse?
I don't care if my mama's in 2nd place if I need a spot. So I'll joke it aside. Yeah, we've raced for 25 plus years together here. That could play into our hands tonight, knowing how to survive this 75 lap race. But like he said, it's just really cool to be here with the NASCAR series and see what kind of spotlight this place has been put under.
Jamie, I love it. We're going back to our grassroots. These guys are going to be fun to watch coming up through the field tonight.
Well, Regan, Kyle Larson is one of the biggest superstars that the sport has. But tonight, Kyle, you're in the LCQ. You're starting 10th. So how hard are you willing to push? How aggressive are you going to need to be to get yourself locked into one of those top two positions?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a funny balance, I think. Like it's obviously, you want to get into the show. But at the same point, it's like, man, if you don't get into the show and you've pissed off a few people, and still didn't make the show, and now you've started the year with people mad at you. So I don't know. Like I said, it's a funny balance of like trying to obviously get into the race, have a shot to win later on tonight, but then also, not have too many enemies for the season. So, yeah, we'll see. But I know our HinderCars.com Chevy will be much better tonight than it was yesterday. So we'll see if I can be a little bit better as well. And yeah, we can, avoid some drama and somehow sneak in the top two.
All right, Kyle, you've raced probably more short tracks around this country than anybody else in the field. So, big picture, what do you think of Bowman Gray Stadium and racing here?
Yeah, well, I think when people consider like short tracks and racing, like a quarter mile or a half mile, even a half mile feels really big in a sprint car, where like a quarter mile in a stock car feels way smaller than a quarter mile in a sprint car. So this is way more short track than I grew up doing. But regardless, it's a very really neat environment, with the fans being right on top of us, and the style of crowd here too is unique, and they're rowdy. So I hope it's a great show, here in this race, and then later on tonight, and the fans can get their money's worth.
All right, that's Kyle Larson. He's going to try to race his way into the Clash. Chris?
Thank you very much, Jamie and Kyle. But the track is not the star. The drivers are the stars in this. And that was interesting, Jamie McMurray, when Larson was talking about you don't want to upset people here when you've got the Daytona 500, a long season ahead. I mean, thinking that way is very interesting.
Yeah, I think he's got the right approach there for championship thinking. And in order for Larson to make it, there's going to have to be some chaos and him not being involved in it. I like the guys, though, up front. Ty Gibbs, Zane Smith starting. I think you're going to start in the top four if we don't have a lot of chaos. But that's a big if, Chris.
A lot of chaos. Chase Elliott on the pole. Last year's Clash winner, Danny Hamlin. In fact, he's won 4 with 4 different crew chiefs. It's the Madhouse, the last chance race qualifier straight ahead.
Drivers were just strapping themselves up into their cars as they were cutting to commercial here on Fox, so we are looking to get things underway in the next couple of minutes. Again, we'll go through the starting lineup a little quickly this time for the LCQ in case you missed it at the start and haven't had a chance to look at it on screen here on KRC. Ty Dillon on the pole for this one. You got Zane Smith starting second, also in the front row. Ty Gibbs, Michael McDowell making up rows. In the inside of row 4, AJ Allmendinger back in the Cup Series full-time again this season for Colleague. On the outside of that row, Justin Haley, full-time now with Spire Motorsports yet again, alongside Kyle Larson in row 5. Larson definitely the biggest name, not only in the sport, but in stock car racing and in this field. As far as row 6 goes, you got Ricky Stenhouse Jr., John Hunter Nemechek, Josh Berry, Cody Ware in row 7. Interesting to see what Berry could do. This is definitely a track that could suit his driving style, despite starting further back. Burt Myers and Cole Custer make up row number 8. Myers, again, one of the locals, as you heard from in an interview with Regan Smith moments ago. Ryan Blaney, Garrett Smithley in row number 9. And row 10, Tim Brown, who was another one of the locals in this race. Speaking of Tim Brown, we got Tim Brown in the chat. Not the same Tim Brown, it's a different Tim Brown. This Tim Brown is a regular on the channel as far as the viewers go. Not the race car driver today, so Tim Brown is pulling for Tim Brown for the win, I see in the chat. That's hilarious. It's cool he shares the same name as a guy in the field in this one. I mean, why not pull for the guy when you have the same name? I would do the same thing if there was a Keegan Schneider running in the NASCAR Cup Series level. I don't blame you one bit. Like your favorite driver just switched for tonight only. It's going to be interesting. I think the most interesting thing coming out of this LCQ is Kyle Larson going to make the race? That's what's going to be tough. A lot of spots to gain and not a lot of time to get there. Showing a close-up of the Austin Dillon number 3 machine. Love the camouflage colors. Always like a camo car. Those early Army Joe Nemechek days. Had some good ones. Mark Martin, obviously, in that car after the fact. Patty and Rumdy Creations, welcome to the stream. Main event, 200 laps. 75 in the LCQ, 200 in the main event. Coverage has been back on Fox here for a few seconds now. And we are about to fire engines, and the cars are about to roll out onto the track. Harvick and Boyer made their way to the booth alongside Mike Joy for the coverage of today's LCQ and main event, obviously the first quarter of the NASCAR Cup Series season. Fox will be airing all of the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series races this year yet again as well. And not only this year, but through the next 7 years, as this is the start of the next TV deal. Last year, NASCAR had signed with Fox, NBC, TNT, and Amazon Prime. CW taking care of all the Xfinity Series races as they finished last season and will begin for the next 7 years to follow. Strapping in for the LCQ. Yes, they are. Yeah, I'm definitely ready for some NASCAR. This will be fun. Again, first of 2 streams. We'll have a separate stream with the main event shortly after following this LCQ. Surprisingly, I saw a little bit of 3-wide racing yesterday. Not sure how. Didn't catch any of the heat racing yesterday for myself. Again, I was out of town. Otherwise, we would have obviously streamed it. Okay, so it is only green flag laps. I did not realize that. So it's just like the main event. I was going to say, man, if we get cautions in this LCQ, it's going to move by quickly. But even still, green flag racing, it'll move by quickly. 75 laps. Caution laps do not count, but there is no overtime, which is going to be interesting. That means if we get a caution on the final lap, obviously it ends the race. Caution with 2 to go. That's kind of confusing because if the caution laps don't count, obviously we wouldn't need overtime. So if it comes out with 2 laps to go, we're still going to have 2 laps to go in the restart because the caution laps wouldn't finish the race out. That's a little bit convoluted the way Fox had detailed it. I was going to say. Made it seem like it was a bigger headline when in actuality it really didn't matter. Almost 50 concurrent viewers watching. We usually have a poll up in the chat for who you think is going to win, but because this is the LCQ, we're not going to have the poll up right now, but we will for the main event later once we know all the participants. Larry McReynolds at the track as well. Tucked in with the spotters. Probably not used to having spotters at Bowman Gray Stadium. Local short track racing, usually you don't have a spotter. Unless it's changed from when I was growing up, but I doubt that that would be the case. Frigid night, you can see the breath of some of those folks in the grandstands. My pick, Blaney. No. I don't really have a pick for the LCQ. I guess if I had to take anybody, I'm going to take Ty Gibbs. He's got track position towards the front in this LCQ outside of a Larson or a Blaney, but they just start too far deep in the field. So give me Ty Gibbs for the win in the LCQ. We'll see if we go 1 for 1 on our predictions this season. Can we beat last year? Or last year we had 7. All-time record is 9 for most wins in a single season. Now, per series, I think I had 11 Xfinity Series wins last year, so I've had more than 9 in a season for another series. But for the Cup Series, our record is at 9. Yeah, 2 chances here tonight. Yeah. About to pull up my Weather Channel app to see what the temperature is at the track. 59. Cool, but not cold. I guess it's not as cold as I thought it was going to be, unless I got the wrong. Give me a second. Yeah, it's 59 degrees. It's cool, but not cold. Viewers in the South are going to be like, 59 degrees is cold. Well, where I live right now, it's 36, and that's warm for here. Last time when I left the Rumble, I think it was like 24, so. What is the coldest race in history? This is nowhere close to it. I mean, I don't know exactly what the coldest race in history is off the top of my head, but I know of cold races. I've been to colder races than what there is today, too, for NASCAR. Kansas in 20, what year was it? Was it 2020? When it was like 40 degrees? Right around there? It was the Logano and Harvick race. Logano won. I believe it was 2020. Ace Alshire, thanks for tuning in. Had minus 30 a few days ago. Willy Wonka, thanks for tuning in. How many get to race tonight? We have 20 locked into the main event right now. We'll have 23. We get 2 drivers to race their way in and a provisional spot. And the provisional is the highest in points from last year, which would be Ryan Blaney. But if Blaney were to finish in the top 2, the next highest would be Kyle Larson. Larson races his way in. I think Ty Gibbs would be the next driver in after that. So those are the only 3 possible candidates for a provisional. Yeah, it was definitely warmer during the day at Bowman Gray. Earlier on. 8 degrees in Boston today, 59 degrees. We'd have shorts on, yeah. I don't know if I'd have shorts on 59 degrees, but I definitely wouldn't be wearing any layers. I'll tell you that much. Put in the chat, who do you think is going to race their way in through the LCQ? Pick 2 drivers. Who's racing their way in? Of the names listed. Cars are on the track, by the way. They're not doubled up yet, but a couple more pace laps away from getting this race started. Again, 75 laps and caution laps do not count. I realized this was supposed to start closer to 6:30. I thought it was supposed to start like right at 6. Pretty much had a nothing pre-race show for ourselves. Usually go through more in-depth predictions, but exhibition race usually don't go live that early in advance. But hey, we did today, and we'll have some fun. JB and the PA Motorsports Fan 05, thanks for tuning in. Ty Dillon, Ryan Blaney. Yeah, Blaney's starting deep. I just don't see it happening. I'm a big Ryan Blaney fan, for those of you wondering. I'm not wearing my Blaney stuff today, actually. I didn't pack it in my bags when I was in Indy for this weekend. So if you're wondering, oh, that's weird, he's not wearing his Blaney getup like he usually does, that would be why. And I just didn't change since I got home. So that's why we are at where we're at. Gibbs, Larson, then Blaney. You got a Larson McDowell. Kyle Lance, thanks for tuning in also. Got a Larson Herbst. Yeah, my pick was Ty Gibbs to win it. I had to pick somebody else to race their way, and give me Gibbs. Give me Gibbs and Dillon. Austin Dillon specifically. I should have made that A Dillon, not T Dillon. Pace cars pulled off the track on the entrance to turn 3. Double wide, 19. On a quarter-mile short track, 2 to race their way in, 1 provisional spot. Green flag in the air, we are underway for the LCQ for the Cookout Clash at Bowman Gray. Bumper cars through the first couple turns as expected in a drag race down the back straight into turn 3. A fight for the bottom and door banging between Ty Dillon and Zane Smith. Smith in the 38 on the outside, and Dillon electing the inside lane for the initial start, which is obviously the preferred line on a tight track like this. Contact middle pack now between the 5 of Larson, the 35 of Riley Herbst. A little bit of wheel hopping going on. Larson's in danger of losing a couple more positions, and both the 35 and the 5 lose a bit of time for the top 8 in front of them. Zane Smith nearly clear. More of body slamming going on between Ty Dillon and Zane Smith as they now head side by side still for yet another lap. Although there's beating and banging, we'll see that every corner. It's been relatively clean now through the first 4 laps of this race. And trading the lead back and forth for those first 4 laps again are the 38 and the 10, with the 38 leading the first 4 now, and 1 lap led at one point in time for Ty Dillon in that stretch as well. Gibbs single file down to the bottom, and the 3rd place starting spot is now 3rd behind the top 2, while Austin Dillon and the 71 of Michael McDowell run side by side for the 4th place position just behind Gibbs. More contact again. Dillon is doing whatever he can to lean on the 38. He heads into turn 1 a little hot. Knocked the 38's left rear up the racetrack. Great job by Zane Smith keeping car control, but got very loose and falls out of the lead. So Ty Dillon now heads at the front of the field, trying to get away from Gibbs, who is now charging hard for 2nd and has a bumper on the inside and out in front of the 38 of Smith, who got just shafted basically up the track when losing the lead a few laps ago. And he's going to have a very hard time trying to get back down to the bottom of the racetrack, as not only Gibbs was able to get by, but Austin Dillon is fighting underneath him as we speak as well. Herbst going up the track. That was off the front bumper of Kyle Larson. He's way out of the gas, and I think he's got some sort of an issue. Herbst is slow on the track. We'll see if he can get to pit road. Hopefully we don't get a caution as Dillon leads to lap 10. Ty Dillon in the lead, then Austin Dillon would be the 3rd place car. Gibbs is a sandwich between the two in the final transfer spot in 2nd. Just getting off the track and out of the way was Herbst. His night's going to come to an end, and he will be finishing dead last in tonight's LCQ. I don't know if it was the contact from Larson that hurt him or not. He definitely went up the track, off the front bumper of the 5, but I'm not sure if he might have had an issue before that. And not a good start to the rookie year for Herbst. The only bright side of things is that it is a non-points race. Showing a replay. Very strange. He got into the back of the car in front of him, which at the time was Michael McDowell. Then Larson hit him, so he kind of got sandwiched in a chain reaction of events. Only to end up being slow. Everybody whizzes by him off turn 4, and here we go. Boy, the Dillon brothers getting together. And Austin almost gets turned off the front bumper of the 38 of Zane Smith after both the 3 and the 38 get by the 10. The 10 knocked out of line in the battle for 2nd with Austin Dillon. It looked like Zane Smith brake checked the 3. He ran into the back of him, and now Dillon's stuck on the outside in a battle for 3rd with his brother yet once more. And they get together again, and now it's Eric Jones 3 wide to the bottom. Gonna get very tight off turn 2. Bumper cars in full pursuit. Larson is going to slam the back of Dillon into the other Dillon. Eric Jones sideswipes the 5. Nobody wants to give an inch in this battle for 3rd. Larson's already come from the 10th starting spot up to 3rd place if he can clear Eric Jones. Jones just completely doored Larson down towards the grass, and now Jones is going to slide. He saved it. Ty Dillon gets right rear hook down the front straightaway, clipped by, I believe, the 51 of Cody Ware. Everybody else somehow missed, and quite a bit of damage on the 10. 43 with quite a bit of damage around the left front tire as well. Caution is out for the first time at lap 17. And now we're 75 lap LCQ. And we've got some very, very unhappy fans in the stands, and they're letting Ty Dillon know it. Dillon started on the pole in the LCQ, and now his car looks to be destroyed. It looks as if he's still raceable. Breaking this down, Larson was side by side with Jones for 3rd after they were leaning on each other for several laps. Larson was practically clear of Jones for that third place position. Ty Dillon just drove it right into Eric Jones. Got him in the left rear. Jones kept coming down the track middle of the back straightaway and basically just hooked Dillon. Dillon nosed it into the wall, I do believe, which is where the damage on the left front came about. And then the 51 also piled in. So actually he backed it into the wall, and then the 51 had clipped him across the front bumper. I don't think there really was much damage, though, on Cody Ware's right front. But man, there are so many beat-up race cars already. You got to think you're going to race your way in, but then you're not going to have time to fix your car if you got too much damage going into the main event. So at what cost are you willing to try to fight for those top spots? Ty Gibbs was ahead of most of the carnage as he is in the lead. Zane Smith has been running in second for most of it. Had led for a few laps before Ty Dillon had moved him, but got back to second after the Dillon brothers traded paint for a few laps. Biggest mover already, though, Larson to go from 10th to 3rd in just 17 laps. So much for not having track position, because he was in a hurry to the front of the field. William Wiley, thanks for tuning in. A wild start here to Bowman Gray Stadium and the Cookout Clash LCQ 2025 edition. Again, caution laps do not count, so that's why we're under red flag. No extended cleanup necessarily is having to be made. And it looks like we're going to have the quick caution to the choose rule as we speak. Larson will line up outside of row 1 despite being in 3rd. Top 2 cars in the running order take the bottom, that being Ty Gibbs and Zane Smith. Justin Haley on the outside of row 2. And then row 3, you've got Austin Dillon and Michael McDowell running side by side as we head for the restart. So they had the choose rule the last lap. Because it's such a short racetrack, there's going to be 2 laps of caution when they do go to the choose. So now they get the 1-to-go signal. Pace car has to pull off the track on the back straightaway. More so the entrance on the outside of the track in turn 3. And now it's up to Ty Gibbs and Kyle Larson at the front of the field here in the LCQ. WWE fan, oh heck yeah. Green flag back in the air once more. Our first restart of the LCQ. And a great launch by Ty Gibbs. He's clear off turn 2 with no contact necessary between him and Larson. Zane Smith, second-year driver now in the NASCAR Cup Series, door-to-door with the 5 of Larson. Back at Front Row Motorsports, where Smith had gotten a very great Truck Series career, competing for championships and race wins on a weekly basis just within the last couple of years. Good finish to his rookie season last year for Spire Motorsports with Smith. Earned him the full-time ride this year with his old but new team yet again. New for the Cup Series level. He had raced part-time for Front Row at the Cup Series level, but not full-time like he is this season. Austin Dillon is doing his best to try to keep to the back bumper the 38 and the 5. Rolls it in deep again through 3 and 4. Really every corner. He's charging hard on entry, but he's giving up a lot of time on exit as a result. So despite the fact the 38 and the 5 are door-to-door, they're actually kind of pulling him, and they're doing it cleanly, which is why they're pulling away. The minute they start making contact with each other is the minute Austin Dillon's really going to get a run at him. Those that maybe had to start further back in the field have now gravitated more forward. And now a lot more contact this time between Zane Smith and Kyle Larson. Larson is going to get the better of it in the sense that he is now in second place. Zane Smith was sliding the rear tires quite a bit, and now Austin Dillon's all over his back bumper. There's so many of the Goodyear lettering rubbed off of so many tires on so many different cars. Most of them are on the left rear side. Austin Dillon ramming his way through the 38 of Zane Smith. And Eric Jones right in line behind Austin. Oh, Zane Smith into the outside wall. And cautions out again. Backs it in after contact with Eric Jones. It was very strange because Jones had drove it in deep and got into Austin Dillon in front of him. Smith was on the outside, and I would imagine that the 43 just kind of went up the track after the contact with the back of the 3 that he drove it in so deep, and Zane Smith got the worst of it, although Zane Smith didn't give Eric Jones a lot of room on the bottom either. That's just a product of short track racing right there. That's what it boils down to. Tight confines, and not everybody's going to be happy about every little detail that's going to go on in this race. Just wait until later when we get into the main event. We're going to see much more of the same. Again, we are racing to see who the top 2 drivers will be to race their way into the LCQ. Ryan Blaney, who's in this race, has basically been at the back the entire time, playing it safe in the sense that he stayed well behind the rest of the field, but still out there trying to learn some stuff so they can make some adjustments to the car prior to the start of the main event later. An extra practice session, if you will. You got to stay far enough behind the pack because of the carnage we've seen so far in these first 23 laps. Only 2 cautions in 23 laps. Not bad for a quarter-mile short track, and you got 19 guys racing for 2 spots to make a main event in a NASCAR-sanctioned event. 52 laps still to go, though, as we've seen just more than 6 minutes of actual green flag racing. Easy Network, thanks for tuning in. Elliott on the pole for the Clash. Yes, he is. Denny Hamlin will be starting on the front row as well. Defending winner of the Daytona Oval Road Course. That's an interesting take. I've seen go back to Daytona. Oh, Oval or Road Course. I got you. I didn't see the or. I had a notification on the bottom right-hand corner of my phone where I have the chat up, so I didn't see the or part of it. Robert Goodrich, thanks for tuning in. Bumper cars for sure. This is what I expected. From the highlights I watched of the heat races yesterday, this is what we saw. We're seeing it again. Again, a reminder, our main event, separate stream from the LCQ that is going on right now, and that will begin at 8 p.m. Eastern. That will also be live on your local Fox affiliate. While they're on the full screen commercial break and we're waiting the restart following the second caution of the LCQ, we'll take a quick break. You're listening live on KRC to the Bowman Gray Cookout Clash LCQ. Cars are single file. Let's see if they go to the choose this time, and that will be the case. Gibbs and Larson taking the inside from positions 1 and 2, and Austin Dillon will be on the outside of row 1. Second straight restart, we're going to see Eric Jones on the outside. Instead of row 3, though, it's going to be row 2. John Hunter Nemechek was towards the back of the field, but nobody wanted to take that all of a sudden. XX Larry, thanks for tuning in. Race already started. LCQ is going on right now. Main event is later at 8 p.m. Eastern. Only car out of the race is Riley Herbst, who had a mechanical issue at lap 8. And despite the fact that Ty Dillon has quite a bit of damage from his incident, he's still in the race. Same for Zane Smith, who was involved in the second caution. Herbst is back out on the track. Ryan Blaney has pulled off of the track. Therefore, Ryan Blaney will be... I don't see him on the track, at least, anymore. He might have just pulled off right before the restart. He's probably had enough. I don't blame him. He's locked into the show with the provisional, which means more pressure on these guys to race their way in by the likes of Gibbs and Larson, as they're not going to have a chance at a provisional. Green flag has been back in the air for a little over a half a lap now. Ty Gibbs going to lead the first lap following the restart. Almost clear of Austin Dillon, but not quite. Didn't give him a lot of room, but it looked like Dillon barely kept it off the wall. And he's doing a great job on the outside so far. Larson racing him straight up for the moment. And Larson into the back of Gibbs, pushing both cars forward, and now they're first and second at the end of lap 25. Larson all over Gibbs, and Gibbs better... If there's a way to find Larson in front of him, I mean, you don't want to let him go, though. That's the tough part. You let him go, you might get freight trained by cars on the bottom. But Larson's definitely looking like the quickest car so far in this LCQ. And he started again in 10th, and then just 17 laps before the first caution got to third. Now he's in second. Hasn't led yet. Only 3 drivers to lead a lap so far in this event have been Gibbs, Zane Smith, and Ty Dillon. Larson not necessarily wearing out the back bumper of the 54, but he is there, and he has been bumping him now for several laps, while they are still somewhat pulling away from Austin Dillon. Still don't want to be second on a restart and have to fight to get the spot back that you have earned. Long ways to go in this race. A short ways if it stays green long enough. Long ways depending on how many more cautions we get. Field is mostly spaced out single file this time. Probably the cleanest restart we've had. Ty Gibbs, though, up to this point now, getting moved out of the way enough by Larson. Slid the rear tires. Austin Dillon not wasting any time to power underneath the 54 as well. Larson to the lead. Door-to-door drag race and beating and banging going on for second between Austin Dillon and Ty Gibbs. Dillon on the inside wins the race. He's clear. Gibbs fights for the bottom. Crunches Eric Jones's nose just a little bit, and Gibbs is fading fast. Gibbs is in fourth. He's checking up to let these guys go and get in line. And again, he's going to get shafted, this time by Justin Haley, but not enough to lose any spots. Just a little bit of time as he went up the track a bit. Haley couldn't capitalize off of it. A little defense to play offense for Gibbs, and he's got a lot of ground now to gain to get back to Jones, past Jones, and then gain more ground to get to Austin Dillon. We're almost halfway through the LCQ now. 34 laps complete at the line. Larson leading his first laps. 7 led now quickly for Larson. Second most of the first 34. Built up over Austin Dillon. It's 3 cars and then the rest of the field. Haley gets checked up behind Gibbs. They're stacking up further back now. AJ Allmendinger noses his way after getting pushed from behind as well by the 42. So much pushing going on, it's kind of hard to tell exactly where it's coming from on screen. Usually it's not just one bump, it's one guy pushing another into another, especially in the middle of the pack like what we're seeing here in the battle for about 5th. Gibbs is slowly catching Jones because Jones is losing the top 2. Larson easily pulling away. And he's basically hoping it stays green and he's going to be a secure lock. Ty Gibbs does not want to be the big name to miss. The defending Rookie of the Year. 2 years ago, I should say, Rookie of the Year. For Ty Gibbs, made the playoffs for the first time in his sophomore season last year. Got a couple of pole awards. Started towards the front in the 3rd place position in this LCQ. He still led the most laps. What can he do to try to find his way into the top 2 positions? I did predict Austin Dillon to get in, but I had Gibbs in there as well. I just didn't think Larson would get through the pack, and shame on me for doubting Kyle Larson of all drivers to try to race their way in. Team's even using 5th gear. It's at the availability, but I doubt they're getting up to 5th gear. They might be shifting from 3rd to 4th. There's already so much going on at once. 2 local drivers running nearly nose to tail towards the back of the field, that being Burt Myers and Tim Brown. 14th and 15th is where they run. Brown side by side with Cody Ware, has been for a few laps now. Starting to lose the 50 car just in front of him. Lap 44 of 75. And we've got a spinner at the very, very back of the field. Caution's out. 66 is around, that's Garrett Smithley. And it was definitely off the front bumper of another car. He's not going to lose a lap. Again, because caution laps do not count. So once he gets it pointed back in the right direction, we'll maintain track position. Riley Herbst has cycled ahead of Ryan Blaney in the running order, with Blaney pulling off track for good, being locked in to the main event with the provisional. And again, Herbst being 15 laps down. Can't get the free pass because the caution laps don't count. Yeah, that was the very back of the field, which is what it looked like. Cody Ware, Garrett Smithley, last 2 cars in line, the ones to bring out the yellow. And the 2 drivers that were furthest most off the lead could be the ones to dictate who may take the lead on this next restart. Raymond Toohey, thanks for tuning in. He's pulling for Josh Berry. Dale Campbell, thanks for tuning in as well. Larson leads. Yes, he does. Provisional. Champions. Well, so it's technically not a champions provisional. But there is a provisional to the highest finisher in points from last season that will make their way into the main event through the LCQ. So you know how the All-Star race has a fan vote? Well, there's no fan vote for this race. So instead of a fan vote, to kind of switch things up a little bit, that they give the highest points finisher an automatic bid. So no matter what, coming into the weekend, Joey Logano would have been the only driver locked in because he won the championship last year. As far as when that rule was made, it's been out there for a couple of years. I don't know if the first year at the Clash they had that, but I know the last 2 years of the Clash at the Coliseum, they've had this provisional in place. So it's not necessarily new. It's newer, but it's not new. Tim Brown in the chat saying, I hope I don't go lap down. I like how he's playing along, that he's synonymous with the Tim Brown racing in this LCQ tonight. Blaney was second in points last year. Yep, so he would be the highest of those in the LCQ because Logano obviously raced his way in yesterday through the heats. So coming into this race, unless he were to wreck out, but ran 23 laps after the second caution, pulled it off track. Why risk it? Am I going to Daytona? No, I am not going to Daytona. I'm not going to either Daytona this year, both for the 500 weekend as well as the August race later this summer. I will have the full schedule for the races I will be attending before the speed weeks. I've been promising that over the last month or so, and obviously all the live commentary streams for the entire season along with that will be posted as well. Just like 2015's chase where the regular season points leader was locked in even if they didn't have a win. Well, that's still like that now. Even to this day, if we had a regular season champion under the current playoff format, even if they don't have 16 winners, they value that over a win. Be the only circumstance where a win or not winning a race could grant you a playoff spot if you were the most consistent through the first 26 races. We just haven't had that circumstance come into place at all. All right, crowd on their feet, a little past halfway in the Cookout Clash at Bowman Gray Stadium LCQ. Larson and Eric Jones on the front row. Austin Dillon, who was in second, will be inside of row 2. Ty Gibbs inside row 3 on this restart. Justin Haley moves up to the outside of row 2. Green flag back in the air. Dillon hits Larson. Gave him a shot, but Larson holds great car control through turns 1 and 2, as you would tend to think Kyle Larson would be able to do. Run side by side with Jones. Best thing here is Jones to get down to the bottom as quick as he can behind Larson and does just that. Austin Dillon trying to barrel it off into the next corner. Gets to the back of Eric Jones, but not hard enough to move him out of the way. Next up, it's still not far enough to get him out of the way again. Larson drives off as there's more beating and banging going on all the way through the field for the most part behind him. Gibbs taking the inside of row 3, might actually lose another spot here. Haley was able to get down to the bottom in front of him. And even A.J. Allmendinger, who was outside of row 3, about to clear him as well. Gibbs, who had led quite a few laps to start this LCQ, has fallen well out of the top 3. And his chances of making his way into the main event are getting slimmer and slimmer and slimmer as the laps wound on. Already down to just 27 laps to go. Larson with nearly a second lead, just a handful of laps into the restart. Tighter battle for second between Eric Jones and Austin Dillon now. 3-time Cup Series winner Eric Jones, and 5 times for Austin Dillon. Neither in the playoffs a season ago, and the only playoff driver to not make their way in to this year's Clash would be Ty Gibbs if he can't race his way up into the top 2. Gibbs trying to get back by AJ as he finally gets back to the inside of him again for 5th, but he's still got a long ways to go to get up to the top 2. He's going to need a lot of help. Couple cautions. Some guys in front of him knocking each other out of the way, knocking each other around as well. Wreck avoidances along with it. Because obviously not wanting to get caught up in the incident yourself also. .7-second lead at the line for Larson. Eric Jones in second, Austin Dillon third, Justin Haley fourth, and AJ Allmendinger rounds out our top 5. In 6th is Ty Gibbs, Josh Berry 7, John Henry Nemechek 8th, Cole Custer 9th, and Michael McDowell rounds out the top 10. 11th place for Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Zane Smith in 12th, Burt Myers 13th, Ty Dillon 14th, and Tim Brown 15th. 16th and last on the lead lap is Cody Ware. Garrett Smithley is actually scored a lap down in 17th. So he did not get his lap back there after all. Riley Herbst would be in 18th. And Ryan Blaney in 19th of 19. Off track, and again, that mechanical issue for Herbst. They did get it fixed, but lost 14 laps. Less than 20 to go. Larson's running away with it. What a performance he put on in this LCQ. Can he do the same in the main event from starting even deeper in the field? Winning this LCQ means he's going to be 21st starting position. We've got another caution. Josh Berry spins Ty Gibbs in a battle for 6th. After Gibbs was still losing time. My, oh my, oh my.
Gets to catch their breath and think about, now what do we do?
Got 19 laps to go.
Let's see what happens.
Gibbs to the rear.
Yeah, Clint won. And just Josh Berry into the back of the 54, just turns front. That was pretty simple. And really, when you're in Josh Berry's position there in the 21 car, you know that you've got to be aggressive and gets into the left rear quarter panel. And that gives him an opportunity to put himself in position on a restart. So Josh is going to be 6th on the choose, and you just have to see how all the pushing and shoving shakes out when we go green again.
Well, sometimes you can't wait for something to happen. You have to make something happen. There it is. So Eric Jones is now in the position Austin Dillon found himself on the last restart. Does he go to the outside, or does he line up behind Kyle Larson? It didn't work that well for Dillon, but Dillon was not getting that good a run up off the corner. Man, it's a gamble at this point now, and I really believe that. I think if you go to the outside and Austin was able to get a better jump than he did last time and gets into your quarter panel and moves you up the track, it's history for you. It literally is. But
The cookout crash. I didn't hear him say that.
But I'm telling you, keep an eye on the 7 car. Justin Haley was very aggressive in the heat races last night, and I don't think that's going to end tonight. He wants to be a part of this show, and he's got a chance right here. Dillon to the front row. Allmendinger right behind him, then Berry.
What do you think about the 3 car on the outside? I think that the outside for him with that loose car and not being pinched down off the corner might give him a better shot to carry some momentum.
But it certainly did the last time. That's how he ended up getting in the 2nd place to begin with.
He's got to hope the 5 gets a good launch, though. That's the thing. Really trusting the guy on the bottom to take care of you.
To Larson's bumper. That's Denny Hamlin, qualifying heat winner last night. 4-time school on these guys. 4-time Clash winner, fast last night. Keep an eye on Denny Hamlin. He's got an eye on the prize.
All right, 19 laps to go in the restart. We're going to have Larson and Austin Dillon. Last one. It'll be Larson on the bottom and Dillon on the top. Crowd on their feet yet again as they have been for most of this race. It's winding down quickly. Running out of restarts, the later we get. Green flag back in the air. Nose out in front is Larson. Great restart, though, by Austin Dillon on the outside. Fairly even nose to nose. Off of turn 2 down the back straightaway. Larson with the edge. Dillon still staying with him for yet another corner. 7 with a little contact to the outside from the 21 of Josh Berry. 18 laps to go into 3 and 4, and it's Haley getting knocked around. Off the front of the 21 again. Second caution in a row Josh Berry has caused. And this one was only a lap after the last one. And this time, the innocent bystander is the 7 of Justin Haley. The 71 of Michael McDowell also got turned in the grass, checking up to miss the incident. He got hit from behind. So both Spire Motorsport entries involved in the incident out of those that are in this LCQ.
Yeah. I'm going to take that back. Yeah, I didn't see that. Not Jonas Berry.
Oh, it wasn't.
Cars behind him.
Well, Barry got hit from, yeah, yep.
21 into the 7, wrecked them all. But that's what happens. That's
Yep.
what happens in the spot. I'll say that.
Well, you heard it from Moyer exactly what just happened there.
But did the 47 get into the 42? Get into the 21, get into the 7.
And that's where it's so hard for the spotters up on top of the spotter stand to say, okay,
Who do you retaliate?
yeah, who am I mad at? Well, I don't know. Let me see how many cars behind you were connected.
Let's check with Regan.
Well, Mike, we're up here in the hill in turn 3. Denny Hamlin, a bird's eye view of all the chaos going on out there. What are you learning? You're going to start third later tonight. What are you learning right now?
Just kind of looking at some different approaches to the corner. I mean, I think there's a few ways you can cut this racetrack and how you approach it depending on what your car's doing. So just looking at what one of the better cars are doing and seeing if I need to go to it later on.
All right, good luck later on, Mike. I got to tell you, this is really cool. This is the great part of short track racing. There's people standing everywhere around here.
Standing room on the crowd, 17,000 people.
Wow, that's quite a bit more than I thought they were going to get there.
One goes to the outside again with Allmendinger, and this time Nemechek.
17,000. That's like a, an NBA, NHL game. It's a pretty good crowd.
For you. More than I care to admit. I'm having fun. I wonder if the greatest anticipation
I'm having fun. You're always having fun. Now, that paint job on Barry's car recalls a car that Glenn Wood, a modified that he drove to victory here. Leonard Wood built it. They called it the back seater because the engine had so much setback. It looked like Glenn was driving from the back seat. It was an old Ford coach. They've always raced Fords. And here's Josh Berry in that same paint job.
It's crazy seeing the Wood brothers battling it out with that 20, Fame 21, the 43, Fame 43 in front of them, and the 3 in front of them. Legends everywhere, old school.
But not all of them are going to make it into the main event through this LCQ. Green flag is back in the air. It's still Larson leading the way for the moment, trying to survive the restarts at the front. He did not fire off well that time, and Austin Dillon a bit better in the launch. Five might have spun his tires just a little bit, although his turnoff of turn 2 was better than that of Austin Dillon. Dillon into the back of the 5 and then gets ricocheted into by Eric Jones, and Dillon is going backwards. 3 wide on the top now, beneath them at the moment. And both the 21 and 16 were able to get through as they battle now for third. Eric Jones is in the transfer spot, second behind race leader Kyle Larson. Josh Berry's driven up to third after he started deep in the field. I believe he was back in row 8 at the start of this LCQ. Duster Nemechek bouncing off one another again. Those two have a history with one another. 42 wide, and that time it wasn't because of contact by the 41 car, so he loses ground. Still more door-to-door bodying, bouncing off of one another back in the second half of the field. As we turn our focus closer to the front, with less than 15 laps to go in the LCQ, you got Larson still leading. And the battle for the transfer spot is between Eric Jones and Josh Berry. A little bit of a lag going on my TV right now. There we go. And we're under caution again as we come back from the lag. Trying to figure out what the yellow's out for. Oh, big damage. Who is that? That's the 10 of Ty Dillon. His car was wrecked before. She's a goner now. There's definitely no recovering from this incident, unlike the first.
Series, and he is a multi-time champion.
Oh, it's Burt Myers. My bad. It looked like the 10 car. It was the 50. Burt Myers gets turned around off of Ricky's car.
Well, you can see
that was a hard impact, too.
It's kind of, Burt Myers got in front of him, and they was all just trying to scramble to get around him. And
Top of the screen, yeah, see, almost turned him. Yeah, it was.
It looked like he got loose.
Looked out of shape before Stenhouse got to him.
And they got moved up the racetrack down in 3 and 4, and he was trying to get back down. It was a little more. It was all Harvey in that story.
Yeah.
That was a pretty hard hit on a
It's a big shot.
yeah
Brand new safer barrier. It's been installed.
small track like this.
Right. Part of which came from California Speedway. 14 laps to go. How many restarts will it take? This last chance qualifier.
It's a good question, Mike. We got 14 laps to go as he is hopping out of the race car as they cut the commercial break full screen on Fox. Part of the safer barrier is from California Speedway. Did not know that. Just added in before this clash, and I would imagine they'll keep it there for future races as far as the Bowman Gray Stadium is concerned. Good thing that safer barrier was there, though, because that, again, was a pretty hard hit, and we've known that these next-gen cars have a stiffer chassis to them, although they crush a little better now than they did when it was debuted back in 2022. Good to see Brown getting out of the car under his own power. Contact again from Ricky Stenhouse Jr. causing this incident. Quite a few yellows. This is caution number 6, by the way, out of 61, because again, caution laps do not count in the LCQ. T-Town TCG, thanks for tuning in. Very fun little qualifier race. Definitely a lot of action, I'll say that much. Ed Kittle, thanks for tuning in. He's pulling for Bowman, I would assume, later tonight. Frank Powers, Matthew Dorter, Bruno. Thanks for watching as well as everybody that is tuned in. Be sure to hit the like button. Try to get to 50 likes on the stream before we turn it. Once again, a reminder, our main event will be at 8 p.m. Eastern, live right here on the channel, and there will be a break period. It will be a separate stream, so we'll leave here. We'll have a little bit of a break. We'll come back at 8 p.m. for tonight's 200 lapper. Emogene Blevins, thanks for tuning back in. Go Blaney, hopefully he does well in the main event. Struggled yesterday and luckily has the provisional. Because starting deep in the field, it was not going to clean, but to go from the back to the front. Although Larson started mid-pack and 10th, got to the front. And Josh Berry again up to 3rd after starting, I believe, 16th. I know he was back in row 8. He was either 15th or 16th he started for this race out of 19. Very great job by Berry, despite the fact that he did cause one of the incidences. But nonetheless, showing off his short track prowess. No overtime. There's no overtime, but caution laps don't count, so that doesn't really mean anything. Because technically there would be an overtime. Caution on the... It's like the red flag is legitimately out this time, because cars are stopped as they put Speedy Dry down on the track.
Tires when that incident occurred.
I don't think anybody would believe that, though.
Well, they promised that they don't claim to the fitness. There is Brown's car, but they'll have to, right? Because it's true. And let's get an update from Jamie.
When you're looking at Tim Brown's car, he brought it back here onto pit road. He has damage on the right rear. And because the red flag was displayed, NASCAR made them shut off the car. You're not allowed to touch it and work on it at that time. As soon as they lift it and the caution comes back out, they're going to go to work on the right rear and try to get him back out on the racetrack.
Now, this car is fielded by Rick Ware Racing, who Tim Brown works for full-time as a mechanic and fabricator. He races as modified and wins championships here on Saturday nights. Was trying to become the oldest driver to start a cup race since Andy Pilgrim, one of the road course ringers. The oldest guy to ever do it, Jim Fitzgerald, Paul Newman's teammate at Bob Sharp Racing. He was a road course winner driving Bobby Walwack's car, and then Rick Hendricks. And that's important because Jim Fitzgerald's is from Clemens, North Carolina, right next door to Winston-Salem.
Of course he is, Kevin. You see that? Right there in Clemens, North Carolina. I read that story the other day. Hey, one thing I will say about Tim Brown, a lot of these drivers that we see today's day and age can't get out and fix their own car. That guy could get out and fix that totaling problem on the right rear of that. Let me show you boys how to do it.
Tim Brown waiting for the red flag to be lifted. This stadium was built in the mid-1930s. It was a WPA project. During the Depression, it put people to work building this stadium for football. The federal government paid 70% of the $100,000 cost. Bowman Gray's widow contributed the other $30,000. He was the president and CEO of R.J. Reynolds Tobacco Company, and for the naming rights, she made that contribution. This has been the headquarters of R.J. Reynolds Tobacco for over a century. This is truly Tobacco Town. Even the local oldies radio stations, WTOB, their Fox affiliate, by the way. And that is the athletic department building of Winston-Salem State University. The weight room is down on the main floor. Tonight it's a media center. Classrooms and offices on the second floor. Well, tonight they're VIP suites. The folks that have come to enjoy the race here.
VIP.
Keep going, buddy. I love it. I need a chair, ladies and gentlemen.
What do you want to do, Clint?
I need some popcorn and a soda. I'm loving this historic
We did our
education.
we did our pre-race. Go ahead, Mike.
How about that? Welcome to the madhouse.
Yeah,
There you go.
we did our pre-race over there in that field house in the middle of 3 and 4. What a view!
Oh, it's beautiful. And that, this place has always been that way, that, the historical side of it is there. But they've done a great job of putting the safer barriers, the new fencing and everything, the new lighting. My gosh, it's so bright in here tonight. They're doing a great job of this for this event.
And a lot of these improvements will stay for the Saturday night racing this season and beyond.
That's great.
The 200 lapper is coming up. That is the Cookout Clash. And here are some of the drivers' thoughts coming into the stadium this weekend.
New racetrack for us in Cup Series, at least for all the drivers that will be participating. I'm looking forward to it. It's certainly right in the roots of our sport. Full contact NASCAR racing.
Oh, it's going to be tight. Not a lot of room to make passes. So narrow and way harder to pass there.
You're basically racing in a parking lot.
You're going to have to move people out of the way. So obviously feelings are going to get hurt.
I wouldn't be surprised at all if that's how it goes down. Hopefully it's none of the madhouse highlights that we're all used to.
There is a culture of racing here, and there's evidence of it on Kyle Larson's car. And Ty Gibbs, and Cody Wares, and so forth. All right, so the Clash has
And
been
everybody's.
a number of different venues. Daytona since 1979, when Buddy Baker drove the 20 lap, 50-mile race to victory among just pole winners that year. 1 year on the Daytona road course, won by Kyle Busch. Then we went to the LA Coliseum. Joey Logano putting it out first and fastest. Who will be the first to take the checkered flag here in Winston-Salem?
I'm happy with it being right here at Bowman Gray, Kevin. It speaks volumes for, I know you've talked about it a lot, the grassroots, weekly racing. I mean, this is a shot in the arm for everybody involved.
It really ties the bottom to the top, right? From NASCAR's bottom to the top of the Cup Series, to be able to have one of these venues come together and see our short track guys, our Cup guys, all in one area is pretty awesome. Jamie?
Fort Myers has been checked and released, and I know these fans around this place loved watching you in a stock car. I know it was a big hit, though. Tell me what happened exactly and just your overall experience here.
The experience has been awesome. I was trying to buy my time, and we didn't have the car we thought we needed to get the job done completely, but there at the end, we were picking them off one at a time, and I think we gained about 4 or 5 spots there, and I got shoved into the 47 and pushed him out, and when I got under him, I don't know if he was upset about that or what, but we ended up getting down. I'll have to watch the replay to know exactly what happened, but I do know that it was an orange car that ran into me, so I'm assuming 47.
Here's the replay right here.
All right.
What did you see?
It's hard to tell from that angle. It was definitely the 47. But like I said, it's yeah, well, his bumper and I'm in the infield, so I guess that's
Glad to see you smiling. Glad you're okay. It was fun to see you.
it was an awesome experience. I just hated it ended the way it did for the guys that worked so hard to make this happen, but we had a great time.
Mike?
And he'll be back to try for another championship this summer at Bowman Gray Stadium. We are under yellow. Repairs can recommence on Tim Brown's car. There is the only orange car in this 75 lap race, and there is Tim Brown Didn't catch that one. Well, double check scoring as he comes around, but because caution laps do not count, Lee Brown is still on the lead lap. Come to choose this time, as most of the Cup drivers already qualified for the clash have found a place to watch this one from. That's the VIP suites above turns 3 and 4, where Daniel Suarez sits.
Well, this is about to get more interesting with a new player up in the front, and obviously we're closer to the end of the race. But with Josh Berry up towards the front of the field now, we've seen him kind of be really aggressive going up towards the front with the front bumper, and I think he has a good enough car to keep up with the 43.
Take me through the choose cone. You think Jones goes to the outside? I'm kind of leaning that way. What do you think?
Well, it definitely has worked out better for the 43 and the 3 when he was up there to be on the top side, to be able to kind of find that gap between first and second on the inside eventually once they get a lap and a half or 2 laps in. So I would venture to say he's probably going to pick the outside, but it wouldn't surprise me if he picked the inside.
If you pick the outside of the front row, you have to maintain pace with the pole sitter and take an opportunity to drop in. If you take second row on the inside, you have to stay close to that leader's bumper and deny the outside starter. But he's going to take the outside. You see it right there for the choose. No, it wasn't it. But I still think from what we have seen, Mike, to that point, is both he and Austin Dillon were able to prevail on that outside, kind of dictate when and how they got down and solidified that second place spot.
The only thing I will say is I think this is going to be the most aggressive restart that we've had, because with the pushing and shoving and everything that piles up on the bottom. So we saw it with Noah Gragson last night. When they all piled up on the bottom, he was able to just kind of keep the pace around the top. But there's going to be a train of cars stuck together.
I'm watching Josh Berry because I believe he's passed more cars than anyone over the last 50 laps.
Yep.
And it's Jones to the outside, and Allmendinger, Berry covers the inside spot behind Larson. Allmendinger to the outside with Custer. Larry Mack.
Yeah, I talked to the crew for Eric Jones, that 43 car, and I asked him, what is he saying about the car? They said, Larry, he has not said a word since they said, driver, start your engines. They didn't let Will Rogers, the spotter, do all of the talk.
1 to go this time. 14 laps remain.
Well, Eric Jones and Josh Berry both have a lot of late model experience, super late models, late model stock. So, I mean, they've been around these types of racetracks. Obviously, Kyle Larson does his fair share of racing, but, you know, I think that I don't know that we've seen everything that 21 car has.
And don't be surprised if AJ Allmendinger in that 16 becomes the wild card in this deal.
Yeah, he's definitely not scared to put that car wherever it needs to be to make something happen.
All right, will this be the final? Here comes Larson and Jones.
Green flag back in the air, 14 laps to go. Larson and Eric Jones front row. And again, Larson on the bottom as he's led the most laps so far through the LCQ. 32 and counting. Nose to nose with Eric Jones, though Jones not going to drop in line to the bottom quite yet. He's still fighting Larson on the outside for the moment. 21 car is nearly clear for third place just behind them as he battles the 16 of AJ Allmendinger. Off the drainage system down towards the bottom of the racetrack was Larson, and he lost the nose of the car there just a little bit. Again, it's Eric Jones in the 43, and Jones leads that lap at the line, and a little contact with the middle of the front stretch might have costed him just a bit. And allows for the 21 car to creep to the back bumper of both of them. Larson, who was dominating this race, is now all of a sudden in trouble with Jones putting pressure on him, as well as burying the 21 behind. And again, the 5 hits the drains, and that really is hurting his car down on the inside of the racetrack. And caution's out behind him, and this is going to restack him yet again. Ty Gibbs going to go around, it looks like on the front straightaway, 11 laps to go. Second time Gibbs has been involved in a spin in the LCQ. This is caution number 7.
Here's a look at it.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Looked like he kind of moved down.
And another one straightened him out. And around he went.
Never lifted.
He was trying to repay that favor. Didn't work out. But this.
People go to Bowman Gray to watch a fight. Eventually, a race breaks out.
Now scoring.
Oh, man.
Jones is the leader. Well, while you were documenting that Jones took the lead, we just saw Gibbs jump Justin Haley.
Wheel-to-wheel contact between Gibbs and Haley, and Gibbs's car jumped up off the ground. Slammed on the left front.
That is not what Kyle Larson wanted to see at all.
It was left front over right front.
That's pretty violent.
Yeah.
Any question whether we're at the madhouse now? Well, I don't think so.
Ty Gibbs has definitely had a few situations tonight, and I think he finally reached his.
Oh, my pick's out.
About this place. Let's go back to Kyle Larson. I thought he had this.
He was out unofficially, now he's out officially.
Anybody's going to have anything for him. Now he's loose. Now he's struggling. Now he doesn't have the track position.
And Barry will go to the outside with Bowman there. Nope, they called it off because there was still a wrecker on the track. They called off the tubes. Riley Hurst is getting another of his umpteen laps back. I believe this will place him 12 laps down.
11.
But he is the pre-pass car. He's entitled to come around and find a position of safety, relative safety, at the tail end of the field.
Well, the interesting thing, Clint, about Larson is now he's got to be on defense. I think we saw right there that his car wasn't as good as it has been earlier in the race.
I think Larson's car is fine. He was hitting the drains on the bottom of the track with the left front tire, and that seemed to be upsetting the balance of the car essentially in the middle of the corner, affecting the drive off.
And the last thing you want to do of any race is lose control of the race on the restart. When you have the control of the restart and everything, and you have way more options as
race or demolition derby. Yes, that's my answer to that question. Is this a race or a demolition derby? Yes. Yes, it is.
Well, I think there's a lot of decisions.
It is both.
Kyle Larson is going to have to.
Jordan Burns, thanks for tuning in. I expected something similar to this, but I didn't expect this much.
I like being on the inside.
Main event's 200 laps. This is only 75. We've had 7 yellows.
I want to be the one shoving and not getting shoved out of the way.
Are you saying 8 wheels corner better than 4?
Absolutely what I'm going to aim.
Well,
Race car heads for
Tim Brown, you're up to 12th.
11 laps to
You got a shot at that top 10 you want.
Joe.
Eric Jones on the restart, taking the inside of row 1, obviously. Control car here. Josh Barrett, 33 around the first turn, pushes him forward. Jones is clear. Larson's going to have to try to beat the 21 and the 16. They're all ricocheting and pinballing into one another. Jones is sideways in front of the field, and he slides in front of Larson and the rest of the pack. Caution is out immediately. Jones has a flat left front tire. He's not going to go anywhere. They were 3 wide out of turn 4 after Larson slammed the 21 into the 43. The 43 was sliding the rear tires and couldn't help but go around.
Is that a bumper cam or a roof cam?
Ay.
Yeah.
Larson's got quite a bit of damage. There's going to be cars that will make it to the main event that have significant damage from this race.
It's from the restart.
Oh my goodness.
Restart right here. Stay up on the outside, and then I believe he's going to try to fill the hole right here. And as they check up, it checks everybody behind him. You see the left front tire that was sliding on Cole Custer's car, and then they just
bam.
off the exit turn 4.
Bam.
Recipe for
Bam.
disaster.
And Eric Jones goes from leader to laggard as they all stack up behind and alongside him and turn him around.
And what
Poor Eric Jones.
when 21 decided to fill that hole, the guys, they checked everybody up and then they just shoved the line forward.
Still 10 laps to go in the last chance qualifier at Bowman Gray.
Oh, man, big lick there for the 41 of Custer to the left front of Jones when he was spun backwards, and I think that's what cut the 43's left front tire down. And a little bit of a wheel hop. The 41 slammed up and down on that left front as well. Left front fender to left front fender contact in the midst of that crash at the very front of the field, battling for the lead. 3 wide, 2 get in. Well, one of those not getting in seems to be Eric Jones now. We ran 1 lap under that green flag run before the caution, so we went from 11 to 10 laps to go. And before that, we get a lap or 2 in there. Red flag, by the way, lasted 7 minutes and 20 seconds after the incident with the number 50 of Burt Myers. Herbst is going to get another free pass. He's had 5 cautions since dropping out of the race, so now he is 10 laps down. He was 15 down. Once more, this is caution number 8 in the LCQ through just 65 laps. Our average is just over 8. What, it would be 8.125? My math serves me correct. Average green flag laps per yellow in this race. Main event might be longer than the Coliseum because of these cautions. I don't think the main event's going to be starting right at 8 o'clock. We might have to postpone that stream a little bit. My goodness. We're supposed to have 2 separate streams. This stream might bleed to EQ, closer to 6 p.m. Eastern. They didn't get it started till after 6:30, so they probably should have started it closer to 6, and then it would only be like 7:10 right now, and they have plenty of time, but starting to cut it pretty close here. Main event's supposed to get started fairly soon, and that's going to give these teams that are going to have damage on their cars prior to the start of the main event that will race their way into the main event through the LCQ less time to repair damage between races. AJ Allmendinger's car actually looks relatively clean. Same for John Hunter Nemechek, at least on the front bumper. I don't know if I could say the same for the driver's side door because I can't see it. They're lined up in the outside lane right now. What I'm saying essentially is that some cars are cleaner than others, although most of, if not all, cars in one way, shape, or form. All right, here we go again. 10 to go. 2 spots to make it into the main event on the line with Blaney from this LCQ getting the provisional. So he will be starting dead last. Who will start 21st and 22nd? A nose-to-nose start there for the 41 to Custer on the outside, who is back with the Cup Series in that 41 car, though this for the newly renamed Haas Automation team after SHR had left the sport last year. So what a drive it'd be if he can get his way in to the clash. Kyle Larson continues to run over those drains down towards the bottom of the track. I don't know how much of it is him versus the car maybe to his outside pinching him down one way or another. He is going to get back into the second place position on this restart. And the 21 of Josh Berry was able to get to the lead. Austin Dillon out of seemingly nowhere is driven up to third, getting by both AJ Allmendinger and Cole Custer in the last couple of laps, Nemechek included. Custer gets shafted up the racetrack by, I believe, I don't even know who it was. We got guys running over each other for 7th place, which doesn't mean anything when the top 2 advance to the main event. We've had guys wrecking each other from 16th. What an LCQ. Larson running down the 21. And the 3 seems to be closing on both drivers right now. So although Larson doesn't have to push the issue to get by the 21, we know what Dillon's willing to do to try to win or advance here in this situation on a similarly styled track. Josh Berry, if I am him, the last lap and a half has been wearing out the back bumper of that 21 car. Gets to the inside, gets on the brakes early into the corner, lets him go. Larson leads, and Dillon's still closing with 3 laps left in the LCQ. Austin Dillon now is within about a half a car length behind the 21, and he is charging hard. A lot of damage to the front of the 21, not as much for the 3, although he had been involved in a spin earlier. Larson pulls away and is looking to win this LCQ if it stays green. Austin Dillon and Josh Berry fighting for the final transfer spot. They'll be coming to the white flag this time. It'll be a 10-lap green flag run to the checker. Car length difference as Berry was able to separate from Austin Dillon over the last lap and a half. Kyle Larson is going to come off of turn 4, and he's going to go on his way to winning the LCQ tonight. And coming home in second will be the 21, as Ty Gibbs had spun out in 3 and 4, ending this thing under yellow as the leaders were about to come off turn 4. Not going to dictate the finish of who's going to get the top 2 here, but it will be Kyle Larson, our last chance qualifier here tonight. Ryan Blaney gets the provisional, and we'll be bringing up the rear of the field in tonight's 200-lapper. We'll have the full starting lineup for the main event when we get to the main event stream. And again, that will be just after 8 p.m. Eastern. We're going to push the start time back a few minutes, probably about 5 minutes or so. So that way we can get a little bit of a break here in between the 2 streams, knowing we were going to have 2 separate ones. Thanks for everybody tuning in for today's coverage of the LCQ. Last chance qualifying race at Bowman Gray Stadium for the Cookout Clash. We've got our main event, again, 8 p.m. Eastern. Different stream. That stream's already open. You can go straight there. You can wait for this live, or that live, I should say, to start. Hit the like button on this stream if you haven't done so yet. Subscribe for more daily NASCAR content. And our doubleheader continues here in a little bit. Top of the hour, about 20 minutes or so, we'll go live. Thanks, everybody. See you soon.